Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Dr. Lask. I'm a consultant radiologist, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I kind of just talk about, I don't know, like radiology things. There must be more to me than just radiology, right? I think. Anyway, so I decided to do this video because on a recent video, I talked about discrepancies and how it can be a very negative thing about being a radiologist in general. And for those of you that don't know what a discrepancy is where essentially you've made a mistake on a scan. And mistakes on scans can happen. Everyone makes mistakes. Anyone who walks through life and says to you, you know what, I don't make mistakes, is absolutely lying. They've made a mistake. They have to have made a mistake because they're a human being, and they chose to ignore that mistake. And when you ignore a mistake, that's where you choose to ignore the potential learning points that can actually make you a better person, radiologist, etc., etc. It's a ridiculous statement, and everyone makes mistakes. Whether you talk about it or not is up to you, and whether you want to actually look into it and learn from it is completely up to you as well. So discrepancies are basically where, for example, let's say you're looking at a CT scan and you may have missed a tiny nodule at the bottom of the lung, and a few years later it becomes something quite sinister. So when you get that new scan showing that this nodule has become quite a significant sinister thing, they go back to where it first popped up, and they may come up to you and say, listen, why did you not mention it? This is something that you should mention. And then you have to try and think about whether it is as big a discrepancy as possible as it could be, and you've got to do some reflections and all that kind of thing. So officially, yes, you do have to do some reflections, and yes, there are gradings of discrepancy. They go all the way from the absolute worst outcome in medicine to the absolute, yeah, I mean, it doesn't make a difference, but I could mention it next time. So my point is not about the discrepancies themselves. They happen. Everyone's going to have a discrepancy. It's about you, how you as a doctor, as a radiologist, deals with that discrepancy. So you have your initial reaction, is that initial feeling of guilt. You're like, oh, great, and that little voice inside your head that tells you you're just not good enough, it starts to come into your head again. Like, you know what? Maybe you're just not that good of a doctor, a radiologist, and you should just think about doing something else. This voice just will come up throughout your entire life, I think. If you're a sane and safe individual, it's a good thing to have a little bit of imposter syndrome, try and keep you in check. Now, there are a few reactions I've seen that come up from people when they have a discrepancy. Sometimes they feel really guilty, and sometimes they're like lashing out and they start to get really annoyed. And my advice to you is just take your time and just think about it first of all. And when you can, try and look into what the discrepancy potentially is. Now, there may be someone on the other side who's looked at that discrepancy, try and say that word, and felt as though it's a higher level than it really is. And you yourself will know from reading it or looking into it how big of a discrepancy it really is, right? Because what I find is that there are a few kinds of discrepancies that happen. There are ones that are power plays. It sounds bad to say, but sometimes people are just trying to get under your skin. They're trying to be like, well, I wouldn't report it like that, and my way is right and your way is wrong. When in fact, medicine's an art. It's not always, right versus wrong. It's just a difference of opinion or a difference in the way you try and describe things. So, for example, I remember there was an MDT, a multidisciplinary meeting I used to go to, and for whatever reason, there was one particular person they clearly didn't really like all that much, and it was all very sort of playground, like their reports would come up, and straight away they were all like nabbing away at it, like, you could have done that better, you could have done that better, you could have done that better. But what was even worse, that person wasn't even in that room when they were having these conversations. And so what you notice is actually what they're trying to do is make themselves feel better by saying that you haven't done a good enough job. And that's just a really mean thing to do, but people are like that, believe it or not, people are really like that. But sometimes the discrepancies for real, like, you know what, yeah, all right, I messed up, or I may not have done the best I could have, and I should try and learn from it. And those are the key. That is the key to being and becoming a better person and a better radiologist, right? I mean, think about it in life. Let's take radiology out of it. If you walk through life and thought, well, I've never made a mistake, I don't make mistakes, and walk away through, I'm not sure you'd get all that far. But if you kind of are understanding that you're not always going to get it right, you're not always going to be able to sort of, figure it out, and you're not always going to be 100% all the time, and you're okay with that, then, I think that's a more healthy place to be, right? I think it really is. So let's say you've seen a discrepancy and you think, you know what, it's okay, I think I agree with that. Then take the learning points for what they are and try and think of a contingency plan to try and get through it. Now, this is where my tip comes in. I feel a bit weird to say like, oh, I've got like these little gems of information, like I'm actually anybody that should, but maybe this would be useful for you. I read a book called Atomic Habits. It's a very, very good book. I would highly recommend it. I'll put a link in the description below. But what he was talking about is basically, well, one of the things, and he talks about a lot of things, but one of the things he talks about is building good habits. And he was actually talking about I think it was a Japanese train station or the train network, and they have a very, very low error rate of what happens. And when you actually look at what they're doing, they are very particular. They've got like a list of things they need to check off. So it'd be like, you know, check the clock, check the time, check the doors, check this. But it's not just that they've got a checklist, they actually say it out loud, right? Well, they actually say it out loud, and that is a bit of a game changer. It's been a bit of a game changer for me, because just like that, radiology has a mental checklist. You know, you've got to look for the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the spleen, etc., etc., etc. But sometimes when you're reporting quickly, you forget as to like, oh, which bit did I look at again? Did I look at this bit? And you going back, and the whole thing becomes a mess. But maybe try this for those of you that do reporting. Just say, I'm looking at the liver, I'm looking at the gallbladder, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this. And then you start to realize that if you have that sort of, if you're actually saying out loud, like you don't have to scream it out loud so the whole reporting room can hear, but saying under your breath, I'm checking the liver, I'm checking the gallbladder, I'm checking the adrenals, I'm checking the kidneys. It does help. It's really, really helped me, at least to be able to finish the report and know that I've looked at everything, because I've been through that entire checklist out loud, not just in my head. Anyway, I hope that was useful. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and a quick plug for my podcast called the Two Medics Podcast. You can find on all the major podcast networks. And you know, hit me up. Let me know if you want me to talk about anything particular, and I'll do the best I can. All right, till next time. Bye.